Hello and welcome to the channel. In this video we'll be looking at the age-old problem of where to fit the valve stem nuts on your CT90 or CT110 in a tube. And as usual, if that's something you're interested in, stick around and I'll get straight into it. If you've owned one of these 90s or 110s for a while, you know that for whatever reason they seem to be puncture magnets, but also sooner or later you'll need to change a tyre or fit a new tube. When you get the new tube out of the box, you're faced with a quandary: where to fit the nuts on the valve stem. And if you look on the internet, on the forums, you'll see for every one opinion there's a dozen different opinions of where these nuts should go. The main place to start would be the box that the tube came in. Are there any instructions? And on this one, no, there aren't. In fact, it's even less than helpful because the picture shows a valve stem with no washer, no nuts at all on it, so it gives you no hint whatsoever. Some manufacturers, I think BMW for example, they suggest fitting the second nut up to the top of the dust cap like this. Some people tighten it down with the rim in between like this. Some people remove this nut and put it higher, and then this one, and use this one as a lock nut, locking them together. What's the best way for you and your postie bike? With no instructions on the box, you've looked on the forums, you're still not sure. The first question that you'll come to is this bottom nut. Should you remove this bottom nut or not? Some people do, some people don't. My thoughts on that are, this nut, thanks Roscoe, this nut is loose, this one with a new tube is already tight, and that seems to me that the manufacturer is hinting, saying that's on there, that's tight, leave it alone. And that's what I do. So the next thing, where do we place this nut, and how tight do we fasten it up? So when the valve stem is pushed through the hole with the nut in place, you can see it doesn't fit down really snug, and common sense would seem that this should be removed and that the tapered washer there would fit better into the hole there. So should you take this nut off? I think not. I think by leaving the nut in place, you're giving additional support for the valve stem and making it more difficult for the valve stem to be pulled out of the tube. So let's go ahead and put that through. As you may have done in the past, you've screwed the nut right to the bottom there and tightened that up. Tighten this nut in place. Is that a good idea? Personally, I don't think so, and I'll show you my reasons for that. Well, if you've got an off-road tyre, a trail tyre on your CT110, and you've lowered the tyre pressures, maybe you're doing some deep sand work, what can happen is the tyre can slip against the rim, particularly the rear tyre. And what can happen, if you look at the valve there, you'll see the valve stem is at an angle, and that means that the tube has moved around with the tyre. And if you keep allowing this to happen, what will happen, if this nut was, Roscoe, if this nut was fully tightened, it would rip the valve stem out of the tube. As it is now, by looking at this, you can say, the tyre's moved, I need to do something about this before I end up with a flat. What you would do, deflate the tyre, break the bead on both sides, and move the tyre on the rim back in the opposite direction and straighten up the valve. So that's why I think it's not a good idea to tighten this nut against the rim. So what I do, I just loosely fit it against the rim. So that's the reason for not fully tightening that nut against the rim. And in fact, some new bikes, I think KTMs, they come from the factory without a nut on there. Some people believe the only purpose for this nut is when you come to inflate your tyre, you can fit the inflator. It stops the valve stem being pushed inside the wheel rim. I hope that's answered your questions. Let me know what you do. Do you tighten it up there? Do you tighten it there? Do you leave the nut underneath? Or do you take it off? Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you again soon in the next video.